lost in the lilies. The heavy, honeyed perfume of lilies saturated the air as Clara entered the meticulously kept lawn. Strings of lights, catching the afternoon's last rays, winked from the boughs of ancient oaks, silent witnesses to countless celebrations. Lily, her niece, stood poised to marry a perfectly pleasant young man named David, a fact that only amplified Clara's sense of aging. Youth bloomed on every side. Giggles, sharp and bright as shattered glass, rippled from clusters of girls in soft-hued dresses. Young men, ties askew and jackets abandoned, chased a frisbee with athletic grace. Clara tightened the cashmere wrap around her shoulders, a reflexive gesture born of long-held insecurities. Her lavender dress, while undeniably elegant, seemed muted against the surrounding spectrum of vibrant color. A tremor of unease ran through her as she smoothed the fabric. Across the lawn, she saw Susan, Lily's mother, engrossed in conversation with an unfamiliar woman, her face radiant with joy, her eyes alight. Clara hesitated, then retreated from the impulse to interrupt. She wouldn't intrude on her sister's moment. Instead, she gravitated toward a solitary bench nestled beneath a vast willow. The tree's weeping branches, like verdant waterfalls, feathered her cheek as she sat. Their whisper was a calming counterpoint to the rising tide of anxiety within her. Thomas would have adored this, she mused, a faint smile gracing her lips. He possessed the singular gift of anchoring her, of making her feel seen even when she felt adrift. He would have taken her hand, swept her onto the dance floor, and spun her until she was dizzy with delight. She could almost conjure his rumbling laughter, the warmth in his gaze. Their meeting had unfolded at a similar affair, a summer garden party thrown by mutual acquaintances. He'd stumbled over her foot while reaching for a canopy, sending a cascade of olives across her pristine dress. Instead of irritation, she'd felt a surprising flutter of amusement at his earnest clumsiness. He'd dedicated the remainder of the evening to apologies and making her smile. The resulting stain, he declared, was a mark of distinction. Now, those memories resonated like a faded melody, beautiful but faint. 5 years had elapsed since Thomas's passing, and the world had continued its relentless march forward, leaving her stranded in a hushed, stationary realm. The music surged, an upbeat pop anthem that vibrated through the earth and into her very core. Couples coalesced on the makeshift dance floor, their movements free and spirited. Clara observed them, a complex blend of longing and sorrow churning within her. She felt like an ethereal presence, a specter haunting her own existence. A waiter approached, proffering a silver tray laden with champagne. Clara gently declined. The effervescence prickled her senses, a phantom echo of celebrations past, of shared pledges and stolen kisses. She preferred not to be reminded. Her gaze drifted to Susan, who had finally detached from her conversation and scanned the crowd, her eyes skipping over Clara as if she were invisible. Not out of malice, Clara knew, Susan was simply swept up in the joyous chaos of the wedding. But it still pricked. Clara released a sigh, a quiet exhalation swallowed by the festive atmosphere. Lost among the lilies, she reflected, an apt summation of her feelings. Lost in the flood of youthful exuberance, lost in the echoes of a life that had slipped from her grasp. The unexpected dance. The band had shifted to a slow, soulful number. Clara stood near a towering floral arrangement, pretending to be fascinated by the blush-toned roses, when a voice cut through the ambient chatter. "Excuse me, would you care to dance?" Clara turned to find a man, younger than she expected, smiling warmly at her. He had kind eyes and a dimple that deepened when he grinned. He exuded a casual confidence that both intrigued and unsettled her. "Oh," she stammered, caught off guard. I wasn't really planning on dancing." "Nonsense," he replied, his voice a low rumble. "Weddings are for dancing. Besides, I promise I won't step on your toes too badly." He extended a hand. "Benjamin Carter, but everyone calls me Ben." Hesitation warred with a sudden, inexplicable desire to say yes. What harm could one dance do? "Clara Montgomery," she said, placing her hand in his. His grip was firm, reassuring. He led her onto the dance floor, already crowded with couples swaying gently to the music. As he pulled her close, not too close, but just enough, Clara felt a flutter in her chest she hadn't experienced in years. "So, Clara Montgomery," Ben began, his eyes twinkling, "what brings you to this joyous occasion?" "I'm the bride's aunt," she explained, relaxing slightly. "And you?" "Friend of the groom. Known him since we were kids causing trouble together." He chuckled, and Clara found herself smiling. "He's cleaned up nicely, wouldn't you say?" They talked easily, the conversation flowing as naturally as the music. He asked about her work, she told him about her job at the library, her passion for books, and the quiet joy she found in helping others discover new worlds. He listened intently, his gaze never wavering, and for the first time that evening, Clara felt truly seen. She learned that Ben was a carpenter, a craftsman who took pride in building things with his own two hands. He spoke about the satisfaction of creating something beautiful and lasting, his words resonating with Clara's own desire for purpose and meaning. They discovered a shared love for old movies and a mutual disdain for reality television. They even debated the merits of different authors, playfully teasing each other about their literary preferences. As the song drew to a close, Clara felt a pang of disappointment. She hadn't realized how much she was enjoying herself. But before she could retreat back to the safety of the floral arrangement, Ben asked, "May I have this dance too?" The next song was even slower, even more intimate. As they moved together, Clara noticed the way the light caught in Ben's hair, the curve of his jaw, the genuine warmth in his eyes. She found herself drawn to him, captivated by his easy charm and genuine interest. He made her feel lighter. When the third song ended, Ben didn't release her hand. He simply stood there, looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. "I'm really enjoying talking to you, Clara," he said softly. "Would you maybe want to get some air? It's getting a little stuffy in here." Clara hesitated. Fresh air sounded wonderful, but it also felt like a step into the unknown. Still, the thought of returning to her solitary corner, to the polite smiles and meaningless small talk, was even less appealing. "Okay," she said, a small smile gracing her lips. "Let's get some air. Dinner and a spark." "I was thinking," Ben began, propped against the bakery's entrance. "Perhaps we could do dinner sometime? A proper date, I mean. Instead of my usual muffin heist and loitering till closing." Clara, mid-wipe on the counter, nearly fumbled her rag. His words, so casually delivered, reverberated through her. A real date? She'd relegated their interactions to the realm of friendly banter, never daring to imagine something more. "Dinner?" she echoed, her voice betraying a slight tremor. A warm smile graced his features, etching fine lines around his eyes. "Yeah. Unless the prospect of an evening in my company fills you with existential angst." "Hardly. Confusion, perhaps. A hefty dose of incredulity." "Not angst," she conceded, a tentative smile gracing her lips. "Just unexpected." "So is that a tentative yes?" Doubt flickered across her features. The age gap seemed like a formidable barrier, whispering warnings of potential discord and societal disapproval. What would others whisper? What future regrets might she harbor? I don't know, Ben." He straightened, his amusement fading into earnestness. "Listen, Clara, I understand. You're probably battling a chorus of objections. But humor me. I genuinely enjoy our time together. I value our conversations. And I believe we could have a truly enjoyable evening." He paused, a playful glint returning to his eyes. "Besides, I know this quaint little Italian trattoria that serves lasagna worthy of Nana herself." The lasagna was tempting, undeniably. But it was more than just a craving for cheesy goodness. It was his unaffected sincerity, the way his gaze held hers with rapt attention. It was the sensation he evoked, of being truly seen, appreciated, and perhaps, for the first time in years, unburdened. "All right," she agreed at last. "Dinner. But you're buying." His grin bloomed, radiating pure delight. "Done. Saturday?" Saturday dawned, charged with Clara's escalating jitters. An hour dissolved in wardrobe indecision before she chose a classic black dress, accented by her mother's pearl necklace. Precisely at 7, Ben appeared at her door, a single crimson rose held aloft. The Italian restaurant exuded inviting warmth, its dim lighting casting intimate shadows, the air thick with the comforting scents of garlic and oregano. Ensconced at a corner table, conversation sparked instantly, flowing like a well-aged Chianti. Ben regaled her with tales of his globe-trotting adventures, his voice animated as he recounted trekking the Andes and navigating the labyrinthine streets of Tokyo. Clara, in turn, spun stories of her life, her work, and her boisterous family. She discovered her laughter resurfacing after years of hibernation, her anxieties evaporating with each shared jest and knowing glance. The promised lasagna exceeded all expectations. Yet, even more captivating was the deepening connection that blossomed between them as the hours slipped away. It wasn't solely physical magnetism, though that simmered beneath the surface. It was a profound resonance, a sense of kindred spirits, and a mutual appreciation for their respective eccentricities. As they lingered over steaming cups of coffee, Clara observed the once imposing age difference receding into insignificance. What truly mattered was the present moment, the undeniable chemistry that had ignited between them. Under a canopy of stars, a cool breeze accompanying their stroll home, Ben paused at her doorstep, his gaze searching, questioning. "I had an absolutely wonderful time tonight, Clara," he confessed, his voice hushed. "So did I, Ben." He leaned closer, a kiss seemingly imminent. Then, a moment of hesitation flickered across his face. Instead, he gently brushed a stray wisp of hair from her cheek. "Good night, Clara." "Good night, Ben." Watching him recede into the night, Clara couldn't suppress a wide smile. The spark was indubitably there. The burning question now, what would they do to nurture its flame? Whispers and doubts. The cafe hummed, a Saturday afternoon symphony of ceramic clinks and hushed voices. Clara absently stirred her latte, the swirling a nervous tic she thought she'd outgrown. Across the table, Martha's brow was a study in disapproval. "So, recap for me," Martha began, her tone measured. "You met him at Emily's wedding? And his age, it's a factor?" Clara exhaled. 12 years, all right? It's not some grand scheme. These things just happen." Martha's ruby-red lips thinned. "Happen?" "Clara, you've engineered your life down to the thread count of your sheets. This smacks of recklessness." Heat prickled Clara's skin. "Maybe a little wildness is what I was missing." I felt muted. "Now it's different." She conjured Ben's grin, the sunburst of wrinkles framing his eyes when he laughed. Martha reached for her hand, perfectly lacquered nails gleaming. "Sweetheart, I'm just trying to protect you. Guys that age, they're often after a fling, not a future." The word resonated, a pointed accusation. Clara recoiled, a cold fist clenching in her gut. Was she merely a diversion to him? It hadn't crossed her mind, but Martha's words were a persistent drip. "He's not like that," Clara offered, the sentiment sounding hollow even to her. "How so?" "Because he gives you attention? Any man with a pulse would notice you. You're sharp, striking, established. Don't you think you warrant someone on the same plane?" The life stage argument. Clara had anticipated it, dreaded its arrival. Martha's concern felt like a slap of icy water, extinguishing the ember of joy she'd been nurturing. Later, after a difficult call with her brother, Robert, who amplified Martha's concerns with a generous dose of sibling protectiveness, Clara confronted her reflection. The laugh lines radiating from her eyes seemed etched deeper, amplified. Was she deluding herself? Was her craving for connection so acute that she was ignoring blatant warning signs? She picked up her phone, her finger hovering over Ben's name. She yearned to hear his voice, to find reassurance, but the doubts clawed at her. What if Martha and Robert were right? What if she was barreling toward disaster? She squeezed her eyes shut, a solitary tear escaping. The buoyancy of a few days ago had morphed into a leaden weight. She replaced the phone, the screen fading to a dark mirror, trapping her alone with her misgivings and anxieties. Confrontation and reassurance. Clara's phone illuminated her face with the ghostly glow of Ben's name. 3 missed calls. A flurry of texts, each more flirtatious than the last. Her thumb hesitated above the answer icon, then recoiled as if stung. Not yet. The buoyant feeling that had followed their last dinner date, the effervescent joy that had lifted her spirits, had soured into a familiar unease. He possessed such youthful exuberance. What could he possibly find attractive in someone like her, a woman on the precipice of 60? That wedding reception, those snatched moments, they were mere sparks, not a sustained blaze. She was deluding herself. Worse, she risked misleading him. Restless, she began fussing, adjusting the perfectly symmetrical pillows on her sofa, dusting already pristine shelves, anything to postpone the inevitable confrontation. The doorbell shattered her carefully erected defenses with a sharp, demanding ring. Her pulse quickened, a frantic drumbeat against her ribs. It had to be him. With a deliberate inhale, she smoothed her dress and opened the door, forcing a casual smile that felt utterly false. Ben stood there, hands thrust deep into his pockets, brow knit in concern. The familiar, effortless charm had vanished, supplanted by an unsettling gravity. "Clara," he began, his voice a deeper timbre than usual. "Why the radio silence?" She stumbled over her words. "I've just been occupied." He closed the distance between them, encroaching on her space. "Too busy for a quick reply? Too tied up to talk?" He scrutinized her, his gaze unwavering. "Something's shifted." "What gives?" She averted her gaze, unable to meet his probing eyes. "It's nothing, Ben. Honestly." He remained unconvinced. "Don't push me away. I thought we were building something worthwhile." The hurt in his voice landed like a gut punch. "We are," she murmured. But what?" He reached for her hand, his touch a vivid reminder of the connection she was fighting to suppress. "Tell me what's going on in your head." She withdrew her hand. "It's the age gap, Ben. It's absurd. You're practically a spring chicken." He gave a short, mirthless chuckle. "A spring chicken? Clara, I'm 34. I've lived, learned, and loved. I know what brings me joy." He moved closer again, his eyes burning with an emotion she couldn't ignore. "And that includes you. I relish our time together, your sharp mind, the way you look at me. The age thing is a non-issue for me." He framed her face with his hands, his thumbs softly caressing the lines around her eyes. "These," he said quietly, "are the marks of a life well lived. A compelling story. And I'm eager to hear it all." "But what about the long term?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "What about family? What about everything else?" He released her face and took a step back. "I won't pretend those thoughts haven't crossed my mind. But those are future considerations, Clara. Here and now, I want to be with you. To see where this journey takes us. And if, eventually, we decide it isn't sustainable, we'll address it then. But I refuse to let anxieties about tomorrow steal the potential for something extraordinary today." He paused, his expression softening. "I'm falling for you, Clara. Hard. And I refuse to allow a mere number to become an insurmountable obstacle." A night with the young crowd. The music hit Clara like a wall as Ben steered her through the front door. Bass vibrated in her chest, a disorienting contrast to the quiet restaurant they'd left only moments ago. Laughter, shouting, and the clinking of glasses created a chaotic symphony. The apartment, clearly a student rental, was a kaleidoscope of cheap furniture, posters plastered on every surface, and bodies swaying under the flashing strobe lights. "Welcome to the madness," Ben yelled, grinning, his eyes sparkling with mischief. He squeezed her hand before releasing it to accept a high five from a guy with neon green hair. Clara felt instantly awkward, a stark contrast to Ben's easy confidence. She hovered near the doorway, feeling like an intruder in a world that wasn't meant for her. The air was thick with the scent of cheap beer and something vaguely herbal, clinging to her clothes already. Ben, ever attentive, noticed her hesitation. He looped his arm around her shoulders. Come on, I want you to meet everyone. He navigated her through the throng, introducing her to names that immediately evaporated in the noisy atmosphere. There was Maya, with her multiple piercings and a mischievous glint in her eyes, Liam, who seemed permanently attached to his phone, and Chloe, whose laughter was as bright and bubbly as the pink drink she was nursing. Clara tried to engage, asking about their studies, their interests, anything to find common ground. But the conversation felt forced, strained. They spoke a language she only half understood, peppered with slang and references that zipped right over her head. She caught snippets of discussions about obscure bands, video games she'd never heard of, and professors she wouldn't know. She found herself observing them, these vibrant, energetic young people. Their faces glowed with an almost unearthly light in the strobe's harsh glare. Their movements were fluid, uninhibited, their laughter free and unburdened. Clara remembered a time when she, too, had possessed that carefree spirit, before life had layered on its complexities and anxieties. A pang of self-consciousness hit her. Was she trying too hard? Did they see her as the older woman trying to infiltrate their world? She smoothed down her dress, a simple linen number that had felt appropriate for dinner but now seemed ridiculously out of place amidst the ripped jeans and crop tops. She felt ancient. Ben, bless him, seemed oblivious to her internal turmoil. He was in his element, laughing and joking, effortlessly charming everyone around him. Clara watched him, a strange mix of affection and anxiety swirling within her. She was drawn to his energy, his zest for life, but she also worried. Worried that she wouldn't be able to keep up, that she didn't belong in his world. Worried that, eventually, he would realize that too. He caught her eye across the room and winked, a gesture that sent a surprising flutter through her stomach. For a moment, all the noise and the awkwardness faded away. It was just her and Ben, connected by something she couldn't quite define. Maybe, just maybe, she thought, she could navigate this after all. Maybe she could find her place in this vibrant, chaotic world, if only for tonight. Lily's blessing. Clara circled the amber liquid in her glass, the ice whispering against the fine crystal. The wedding festivities hummed around her, a boisterous chorus of congratulations and laughter, yet she remained an outsider, observing the scene as though through a pane of glass. She'd overheard fragments of conversations, whispers she suspected, aimed at her, and the pressure of unspoken disapproval settled upon her shoulders. No one understood the quiet rebellion she felt. A comforting hand landed on her arm. Lost in thought, are we? Lily's voice was a welcome solace. Clara offered a wan smile. Just a bit overwhelmed, I guess. Lily's perceptive gaze missed nothing. Overwhelmed, or battling the current? She indicated the dance floor, where Ben, with exaggerated gallantry, was whirling Mrs. Abernathy, eliciting delighted squeals. He's certainly making the most of it. That's Ben, Clara murmured, a faint smile playing on her lips despite herself. He has a gift for making others happy. And you, darling? Does he bring you joy? Lily's voice softened to a confidential murmur. Clara faltered. How could she articulate the bewildering blend of elation and trepidation that Ben evoked? The sheer nerve of their connection, the societal norms she felt she was flouting by simply being near him? Lily gave her arm a gentle squeeze. Don't let their shadows eclipse your sun, Clara. Life's too fleeting for regrets, for dwelling on might-have-beens. If he sets your soul alight, that's all that truly matters. Let the whispers fade. Trust your instincts. Her words, simple yet profound, struck a chord deep within Clara. It was as if a floodgate had opened, releasing a surge of suppressed feeling. It defies expectations. Expectations are chains, Clara. Break free. Lily winked. Besides, I believe you deserve a dose of unexpected bliss. And honestly, watching you too, it warms my soul. Lily offered a final, bolstering touch before dissolving back into the throng, leaving Clara feeling strangely buoyant. The knot in her stomach loosened, replaced by a hopeful flutter of anticipation. She spotted Ben near the laden dessert table, attempting a precarious balancing act with miniature cream puffs. His face lit up as he saw her, his eyes crinkling into laugh lines. Deserting the dance floor, are we? She queried, amused. He relinquished his cream puff pyramid, a few tumbling onto the pristine linen. I was searching for you. There's something I wanted to share. He clasped her hand, a jolt of electricity coursing through her. I know things are challenging. And I'm aware tongues are wagging. But none of it registers with me. I'm falling head over heels for you, Clara. The unwavering sincerity in his tone was like a guiding star, piercing through the clamor and the doubts. I want us. I want to forge something lasting with you. Naomi's return. The bell above the bakery door chimed, announcing a customer. Ben, humming along to the radio, looked up, flour dusting his apron. His smile faltered. Standing there, framed by the afternoon sunlight, was Naomi. Naomi Chin. Polished, perfect Naomi, as if plucked from the pages of a magazine. Her crimson dress, the kind Clara only dreamed of affording, clung to her like a second skin. Her black hair, usually pulled back in a severe bun, cascaded down her shoulders in loose waves. Benny, she purred, her voice a familiar weapon. Long time no see. Clara, who'd been organizing pastry boxes in the back, froze. Her stomach clenched, a cold fist squeezing the air from her lungs. Naomi. She'd only seen pictures, carefully curated snapshots on social media, but they hadn't prepared her for the sheer force of Naomi's presence. Ben wiped his hands on his apron, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. Naomi. What are you doing here? Naomi glided towards the counter, ignoring Clara completely. Just thought I'd drop by. Heard you were baking. She wrinkled her nose, a delicate expression of distaste. Seemed a little beneath you. It's honest work, Ben said, his jaw tightening. Oh, darling, I know you're capable of so much more. Remember that promotion at the firm? The one you turned down for this? She gestured around the bakery with a dismissive wave. Clara felt a familiar ache of insecurity. Was she holding Ben back? Was he sacrificing his potential for her? I'm happy here, Naomi, Ben said firmly. He glanced towards the back, a quick, reassuring look that Clara desperately clung to. Naomi's painted lips curved into a practiced pout. Happy? Or settling? We had something special, Benny. Don't you remember? She leaned closer, her perfume, a heady mix of jasmine and something sharper, filling the small space. We could have it again. Clara watched, paralyzed, as Naomi reached out and touched Ben's arm. He flinched. Naomi, stop. It's not going to happen. Her eyes narrowed. What? Why not? I'm willing to forgive and forget. We were good together. We were complicated, Ben corrected. And I've moved on. He took a step back, putting the counter between them. I'm with Clara now. Naomi finally acknowledged Clara's presence, her gaze sweeping over her with a dismissive coolness. Her? Really, Benny? You traded me for her? Clara's cheeks burned. She wanted to disappear, to become invisible. Ben's eyes flashed with anger. Don't talk about her like that. Clara is amazing. And I'm happy. Genuinely happy. Something I haven't been in a long time. He reached behind the counter, finding Clara's hand and giving it a reassuring squeeze. Her fingers tightened around his, grounding her. He faced Naomi again, his expression resolute. So, thank you for stopping by. But I think it's time for you to leave. Naomi stared at them, her face a mask of disbelief and something that looked suspiciously like hurt. You're making a mistake, Benny, she hissed. Then, with a toss of her perfect hair, she turned and stalked out of the bakery, the bell above the door chiming mockingly as she left. The silence that followed was thick and heavy. Clara looked up at Ben, her heart pounding in her chest. He met her gaze, his eyes filled with a warmth that chased away the last of her doubts. Hey, he said softly, his thumb tracing circles on her hand. Everything's okay. Clara finally found her voice, a shaky whisper. I thought what? That maybe maybe you still had feelings for her. Ben pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her. Clara Montgomery, he said, his voice low and sincere. I only have feelings for you. Age is just a number. The Sunday morning sun dripped through the kitchen window, painting stripes across Ben's back as he hummed along to a jazz record. He flipped pancakes with a practiced flick of the wrist, the scent of cinnamon and maple syrup thick in the air. Clara leaned against the doorway, a mug of tea warming her hands, a smile playing on her lips. He'd learned her tea preference within a week of their first date: Earl Grey, 1 sugar. It was a small thing, but it felt monumental. Those smell divine, she said, pushing off the doorframe and wandering over to the counter. Ben grinned, a dusting of flour on his cheek. Fuel for a day of absolutely nothing. Clara laughed, a sound that still felt surprisingly new and free. Nothing sounds perfect. Later, curled on the sofa with a book, Clara felt a contentment she hadn't known existed. The silence wasn't empty. It was filled with the comfortable rustle of pages, the rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall, the quiet awareness of Ben sketching in his notebook across the room. She caught him looking at her, a soft smile on his face, and her heart did a little skip. She'd been so worried about the age difference, about what people would think, about whether she was simply making a fool of herself. But Ben had a way of brushing aside her insecurities with a gentle hand, of making her feel seen, truly seen, for the first time in years. He didn't treat her like a fragile antique, he celebrated her, flaws and all, like a vintage treasure he'd unexpectedly unearthed. One evening, while Clara was experimenting with a new recipe, a disastrous attempt at homemade pasta, Ben pulled her close, his hands dusted with flour. You know, he said, his voice low and teasing, you're a terrible cook. Clara chuckled, bumping her hip against his. And you're a terrible influence. But, he continued, nuzzling her neck, you're perfectly imperfect. And I wouldn't have you any other way. The pasta ended up in the bin, and they ordered takeout, laughing over the near disaster. Clara realized then that the mess, the imperfection, the sheer joy of being together, was what mattered. A few weeks later, an invitation arrived, another wedding. Clara felt a familiar flutter of apprehension. The last wedding had been the catalyst, the unexpected spark, but it had also been fraught with self-doubt. Do we have to? She asked, handing the invitation to Ben. He studied it, then looked up, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Only if you want to. We can spend the day doing absolutely anything else. Clara hesitated. I think I do want to. I just... worried about what people will say, he finished, gently taking her hand. Let them talk, Clara. Their opinions are irrelevant. This time, the wedding was different. Clara walked in with her head held high, Ben's hand firmly in hers. She wore a dress she'd actually enjoyed picking out, a vibrant emerald green that made her eyes sparkle. She wasn't trying to fade into the background, she was radiating confidence. During the reception, she caught the eye of her sister, Margaret. There was a flicker of surprise, then something akin to approval, in her sister's gaze. Clara smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile. She and Ben danced, not caring who was watching, lost in their own little world. Age was just a number, a meaningless statistic in the face of genuine connection. As Ben twirled her around the dance floor, Clara knew she wasn't just at a wedding, she was celebrating a new beginning, a life filled with unexpected joy and a love that defied expectations. She was exactly where she was supposed to be,